Sunshine. I love the sunshine. It's the second day of April 2009. We're on the Ashley Road on the front lawn of Hanson Starter Shop. And you're looking, wow, you're looking into the distance. I can barely see them with my old eyes, but those are windmills turning. As you know, Calvin and I in Hometown Cable have spent a lot of time talking about alternatives for energy. We need renewable energy sources, and so we spent a lot of time talking about windmills. And for a long, long time, we have discussed the possibility of talking about solar power. We finally are going to broach that subject today. If you've never watched one of our programs all the way through, I think it behooves you to watch this one. Get the family together, Grandma, Grandpa, and the kids, because this is the wave of the future. Solar energy has been around for a long time, and we've used the rays of that beautiful sol for thousands of years for our benefit, and now we're finally harnessing that energy to power our homes and our saunas and our pools and our businesses here in the North Country. Stay with us. I think this will be a very interesting program today as we talk about solar power. We're doing this about 9:15 in the morning, and the temperatures are getting nicer than they have been. Yesterday morning, which would have been April Fool's Day, I was no April Fool. I looked at the temperature and there was frost on my grass. It was about 31, 32 degrees, but we started off in the high 30s and low 40s today, and we're going to get into the 60s. A good day to talk about solar power. Tom Hollingsworth, how are you?
Good. Thanks, Gordy. Thanks for asking us out.
Triangle Systems.
Yep,
wow.
Triangle Electrical Systems, but we use Triangle Electric.
Do you? Triangle Electric suits me. Don Hanson, if you need a good starter, don't take a shot of Seagram's.
Right.
Don Hanson Starters. You've been up here on the Ashley Road for a long time.
1973.
Is that incredible? Calvin was only 6.
Yeah.
And you were only 13. Whatever.
I was only 13.
Yeah. Whatever possessed you to think about one of these big rigs behind me here?
Tom had a lot to do with it. He's a
little guy, but he knows how to twist the arms, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's wonderful.
Ice boxes to the Eskimos.
Right.
You know, people don't realize it. We got a couple of good things going for us here in Clinton County. Number one is wind. We've talked about wind power, and in the distance we started our show looking at those windmills up on the hills there in Altona. And we've got sunshine.
Yes, sir.
People don't realize we've got sunshine, Thomas.
Plattsburgh Air Force Base, I heard, was built here because of the long flying hours with this additional sun that we have here.
That's part of it. Part of it was jet planes love cold weather.
Yeah.
And we had more good flying days in the course of a year than almost any other place on the face of the earth.
I didn't realize that.
And I was very much involved in working on construction, building the base and promoting it for all those years until 1995. You must have been 14 by then, right? Yeah, sure. But anyway, we have lots of sunshine, and I remember the days, Calvin, we all do, when they were saying many years ago, sorry, Hawaii is about the only place where you can really make solar power cost effective. But boy, have those times changed.
One of the things here is that with the cold, solar works better. The colder it is, the better it works. So with a clear, crisp day like today, we'll really be producing a lot. So we've done well. We've sold about 70 solar systems in the last 6 years.
Have you really?
April 1st was 6 years for me.
You know, I was doing some research. I normally go into these programs absolutely blind, so I get a college education by talking with people like Tom and Don. But I did a little reading last night, and I've watched solar energy progress for many, many years. And it was back in the 1990s when President Bill Clinton was in office, when he said, By 2010, we're going to have 1 million homes with solar power.
Yeah, that was the goal then, but it's coming now.
You better start. You better
What
get more than 70 by next year.
Well, one of the things that's happened is NYSERDA helps fund these programs, and they had put aside this money that was supposed to last 2 years. In 6 months, it's almost gone.
Isn't that amazing?
So they're looking for more funding from the incentive program and stuff. So,
we're going to be using phrases and words and things that people are not familiar with all day today. These are things that Tom, that you use all the time. But tell folks what NYSERDA is.
NYSERDA is the New York State Energy Research and Development Association.
Right.
Pataki, when he was governor, set it up as a funding mechanism for cutting down on kilowatt hours. They were concerned at one point that the utilities of New York wouldn't have enough kilowatt hours to supply everyone. So they came up with NYSERDA, and their whole goal is to cut down on the amount of kilowatt hours that are actually being used by customers. And one of the ways is the solar, and they also promote small wind and stuff. The big wind doesn't go through NYSERDA, just the small stuff. And that's what NYSERDA does, and we're been certified ever since we started this, and we're also what's called NABCEP certified, and that means that Greg, the owner, had to take a test, and now we're the elite up here as far as installers go. We're the number one here, and we might be close to New York State if some of these projects I'm working on go.
It's the whole business is complicated enough so that I think our viewers should pay attention to what we're talking about today. It'll get your first chapter of your master's degree organized before we're through, but you'll find out why a guy like Don Hansen decided to do this. What, did it take a long time for this guy to convince you? How many cups of coffee?
Oh no, I went to a seminar back a few years back, and that's how I got hold of their name, and I give them a call, and things progress from there.
Well, you've been involved in an electrical business yourself all your life,
but
right?
DC is for starters and alternators and stuff.
Well, we got DC involved here too, don't we?
Yeah, I was thinking that fits in pretty well. DC is what the panels produce.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they transfer it to AC, but I guess I was thinking about the footprint I would leave, and maybe my sons can carry it on and expand it. I don't know.
You know what? He mentioned the magic word footprint. We all leave one, don't we?
Yes,
Tom?
we do. We certainly do. Hopefully we're leaving a legacy here. Yeah.
Well, it's really important, but it is something that's worthy of study. It's not simply a matter of having Tom come to your house and said, yeah, we can put one right there. Yeah. So many things to consider.
There is.
Now, you spent a lot of your career.
I'm retired NYSEG. I had
NYSEG.
I had 33 years with the power company.
You and so many friends of mine who retired from NYSEG. Great organization, and that also has changed so much in the last 10 or 15 years here in the North Country. It's hardly recognizable anymore.
Well, most of the stuff I've learned at NYSEG, being a commercial and residential rep and conservation, I've put forward. This job fell right into what I knew. So it works well. Works very well.
Don't tell me you didn't have to do a little studying.
Oh, we started with nothing. I knew that solar panels were on the Northway, and that's what I knew about solar panels. So Greg Brienza and myself, who's the owner of Triangle, we've learned it together.
The fact is that the spotlight is swinging over, the sunlight spotlight is swinging over to solar power.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a tremendous push right now in the last year or two. And with the economy the way it is, it's something that a lot of us ought to be at least aware of.
Yeah, it's true, and it's some places it's just too many trees for the shading. Yeah, shading is a big issue with solar, so we have people that cut the trees down, or we find a spot for it, or some places I've had it just won't work.
Don, you got a good spot here.
Yeah, we could have put it on the barn roof in the back there, and could have done the same job.
They're so
taking more and more panels. But.
so many different kinds of installations. As I read through hundreds of pages last night, it dawned on me that people are covering the whole sides of their barns, their roofs.
I've got a couple businesses that are looking at it right now, so we'll see if they materialize or not.
Now, people might think watching this, well, you got to be a big business before you can even consider it. Guess what?
I've got a lot of residential ones. For the most part, they're residential. We just got the new net metering law passed, so I didn't promote solar to businesses until that got passed, because on the weekends they're just giving it back to the utility for free.
Now, here we are with another phrase called net metering. It's really nice when you can watch that thing outside on the meter turn around and go backwards, and that's essential what net metering is. But explain it to people.
Well, if you're producing more power than you're using, which most of the time in the summertime you are, unless you have air conditioning running, and if people are at work and the house is almost shut down in this day like today, then you're spinning that meter backwards, and you're pretty much storing it up in the summer, so when winter gets here and you less light hours, then at that point in time you've got this bunch of credits stored up in your meter that starts going the other direction, and I can size the system to pretty much equal your usage.
Isn't that amazing? It's nice when it starts running backwards.
Yeah, I'd like to see it run backward.
We just set this meter today.
Oh, you're just setting the meter today?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think you ought to spin it backwards by hand just to show them what it's like.
Yeah, well, NYSEG puts in
That digital.
Oh, yeah.
NYSEG puts in a digital now, so it actually, the top set records what's going from the utility to the customer, the bottom set records what's going from the customer to the utility, and then those two are compared, and then hopefully once it gets squared away on this net meter at the end of the year, then there's a settle up period with the utility.
When I said that there are a lot of things to consider when you're talking about solar, I'm not kidding. Just the regulations alone.
Yep.
How you have to connect with the grid. They used to say we're off the grid, but he's on the grid.
Oh yeah, well, we take care of all the paperwork. We do the NYSERDA incentives, and we subtract them from whatever the customer's cost is, and then we wait on those incentives to come from the NYSERDA or the state. And then the interconnect with the utility, I take care of getting that all squared away, and we send in the paperwork, and they have a whole list of stuff they want, and we just make sure that they get it, and it's gotten to a point where it's pretty much boilerplate stuff over and over, just different people, different amounts.
But every installation is different.
No, everyone is different. Exactly right, and we try to meet the customer's needs, and a lot of times it's just too expensive, so they say, well, I still want solar, so we'll say, well, what do you think about half? At least that part of that is locked out from any rate increases. Once you have your own power, then the utility raises rates. It doesn't affect you.
Is it a good feeling to be at this stage?
Yeah,
Don?
yeah, I believe so.
Did you worry about it at first?
No.
What? Me worry? No.
I don't think
Life is too short for worrying.
Nothing bothers Don.
Isn't that amazing? Okay, put it up there. We'll see what happens, right?
We're installing his solar system. Don's out there wanting to know if it's okay if he can do the backhoe trench to the barn, So
Come on.
Yeah, I did dig the wire trench. Yeah.
Oh boy, oh boy,
so
oh boy.
they don't come any easier to work with than
I
Don.
bet you it didn't take you too long to figure out where to put that thing.
Well, when we decided to put it, and when they came to install it, there was water there, and there's still water. You can see how they had it. So they moved the spot a little bit and came up with this idea. So.
Eliminated 2 apple trees.
Yeah.
Oh no! Now that's a 24 panel array.
That's correct.
See how I can count across and up?
Yep.
And there are only a couple of different size panels, aren't there?
We tend to stay with the same size panels. Just it just makes the figures easier and stuff. But you'll see when we go to some of these other houses that we had trouble getting panels. So you'll see there's GE panels. These are SunPower. We've got Kyocera. So we're a dealer in 3 or 4 different kinds, and And I'm working on another one up in Malone that wants batteries, and these don't work well with batteries. They're a different grounding system, so we'll switch over to Kyocera for his system.
That's another. There's so much to talk about today, and we'll be moving from one location to another throughout the day. But the battery system is a whole nother ballgame.
Yep, it is, and we've.
Off-grid.
Yep.
Well, there's off-grid, but now there's also battery system for on-grid. But these inverters that they're making down in Malta, they're really small. They're only 2,500 watt inverters. So if someone wants a small system with a battery backup, we can do that for them. So
Now everybody doesn't want or need batteries, and
No,
you can explain that to people.
Well, one of the problems, like with Don's system here, if the power does go off, he's like a generator, so he's backfeeding the grid. So these new modern inverters will actually shut his system down, and then they will power back up when the power comes back on. So one of the things that the utility does is they come out and they test to make sure that that inverter shuts off within a very short amount of time. And then they check to make sure that it comes back up, and we haven't had any fail because we buy SMA, the top of the line inverters, so we don't have problems with inverters. They make a bunch of other ones that are a little cheaper, but we decide that it's better to spend the extra money and not have problems.
That's a vital part of the formula, because when the power goes off and then it comes back on, it's like installing your own generator system at home. You don't want the poor NYSEG guy to come over and get an awful jolt, right?
Right, exactly.
When he thinks those lines are down and they're not.
Right, because when we're backfeeding the grid, it goes through the transformer at 240, but it comes out on the other end at 4,800 or 12,000, whatever the line voltage is out there. So the transformer actually steps it up. So you just say, well, it's only 240. Well, it's not only 240. It's 12,000 if it's going through one of those transformers. So
not something you want to grab.
Right.
So how much of your business in your home here is going to be powered by solar when this thing is all up and running?
I'm guessing pretty close to 3/4 of it anyway.
That's what we came up with.
3/4?
Yeah, and Don did some conservation. He changed out a bunch of lights in the workshop and stuff, put in the more efficient T5s or T8s and T8.
T8, yeah.
So that because he had all old fluorescents, and so that's one of the things I try and do is I look at what the customer has. If they have a really old refrigerator, it's cheaper to replace that refrigerator and try and power it with solar. So we always look at the conservation aspect first to see if there's places that they can cut down on their power before and then we do the solar estimate based on what the new conservation number is going to be.
A lot of people, especially in rural areas like we live here, thank goodness, in northern New York and Clinton County, people have been conserving one way or the other for years, but you look at that old freezer, that old refrigerator, that old television set.
I just ran into a refrigerator the other day that was avocado colored. Now we bought.
Oh, there you go. We do remember those avocado refrigerators.
Our first refrigerator in 1972 was avocado colored.
Of course it was.
So I said, well, let's look inside the ice box. Open it up, and it's almost filled with frost. I said, this thing is killing you, you know. So we figured about that thing, about what it uses, and subtracted that out of the mix.
You know, people don't realize it, but you can go right through the house. Yeah. When you're setting up, for your example, for your own generator or solar power, you can go through the house and tell people exactly how much energy they're drawing down.
Well, I did energy audits for 7 years and high bill complaints, so, you know, and we did, 5 years of residential audits and their, high bill complaints, that sort of thing. I did commercial audits, so I've got a lot of background in that. So that's the very first thing I look at. If they think they're going to invest in solar, or if they say it's too expensive, then I say, well, let's see what we can take out of the mix here, So
that's why it's important to sit down at your kitchen table or somebody's kitchen table and talk about this thing. And for people who are interested, we should point out that this is not necessarily a commercial for Triangle Systems here, electrical. But there are other dealers as well. But the point is, do your homework.
Yeah. Well, we have a packet that we send out to the customer, and if interested in solar, here's the steps to follow, and then if they're still interested, then we make a site visit and determine where it could go, and what the cost would be, and I give them a formal proposal, and we go from there.
I read through that packet that you sent out last night, so I would get an idea if I were interested, or if my friends were, that I could talk intelligently on the subject, and that spells it out.
Yeah, well, that's...
Even the words are printed big, so I can see.
Well, when we first started, if someone was interested in solar, I'd drive down there, and I've been to Vermontville and stuff, and I'd stand there talking to the customer. I said, "Oh, this perfect garage, perfect. This is it. This is how much it costs." I had no idea it was that expensive, so I came up with this other deal, because you just can't spend that much time in the car. Now it's gotten busier and busier, so. Yeah.
Well, we're going to use a couple of words many times during our broadcast today, and those two words are cost effectiveness. And that's something that everybody has to consider when they're talking about or thinking about installing solar power. In the words of the old North Country business person, what's in it for me? How will this pay me back? How long will it take for me to
You're probably looking at,
see results?
You're looking at almost 15 years.
Yeah.
Another lifetime.
You're good. You're good for 35 more years, and I'll be right behind you, buddy boy.
We figure solar, the output's guaranteed for 25 years, but we figure that we've got some over in Vermont. This older man that trained us, he's got them since 40 years. Some of his have been running. So, and the only thing you can tell somebody is that it's 15-year payback today with today's rates, but who knows in 5-6 years where the rates are going to be,
Who knows we were going to be in this kind of situation even 2 years ago. The future is so unpredictable in this wild world we live in.
Well, once you put your solar system in, then now you have locked in your rate. I mean, whatever you're paying for your monthly payment is your rate and then once your solar system's paid off, then from that point on, you have no light bill other than
on the gravy train.
Well, you finally got there. In other words, So, and if you do go to sell that house, it's a heck of a lot easier to sell a house that has no light bill.
Yeah.
So
we've looked at, and I'm sure you have many times, at the tax laws, the federal and state tax laws, various incentives, tax incentives, and now possibly grants to be involved in this. So the business is evolving as we're standing here. There are people negotiating to make it easier for those of us to get
One of the things the
involved.
feds have done is they've made the 30% tax credit. It used to be capped at $2,000. Now there is no cap. Well, that part comes up, and then NYSERDA sees that this is up, so they lower their incentives. So the system is a little cheaper, but not a huge, and the customer now has more upfront money, but he has a bigger tax credit coming at the end of the year, and the state will go 25%, and it's capped at $5,000. So say a $50,000 system, 30% of 50 is 15, and another $5,000 into that, so you get about 20,000 off of 15 thing, and then the state will kick in another 15 or 20,000. So you haven't got a huge outlay after you're done, but it's still significant for the average.
It'd be nice to get grants, get the grant up front, so you don't have to wait to the end of the year for the tax incentives to kick in.
Or the next 10 years, because if you don't use it up, then it just kept getting pushed and pushed.
That's another good point. We're going to pause for just a minute, talking with Tom Hollingsworth and Mr. Hanson right up here in the Ashley Road. This is God's country up here. The grass is still a little squishy, but that's all right. We got our tall boots on and we're all set. Stay tuned. We're talking about solar power. We continue our discussion on solar power. Tom, what's unique about this system compared to others that we might see or hear about?
Well, this
today?
one here will actually track the sun. It'll track it north and south, back and forth, and east and west. As the sun rises, it will actually flatten out in the summertime. So the sun is going to always be hitting it at a 90-degree angle. So
not a bad idea, right?
Nope, it increases.
Compared to fixed panels.
Yep, it takes up considerably less room. And we're hoping that we're able to talk some businesses into it, and we're looking at some farmers, and we've gotten inquiries from some of the municipalities. So we're hoping that this thing here will take off. It's all made here in Clinton County. The solar panels are out of California.
They're made in California?
Yeah,
I know a lot of them are made in Asia. But
Yep. These are California. SunPower is a California company.
Right.
And they get their inverters. So the inverter is about the only thing that's foreign. It's a German-made inverter that SunPower puts their name on. So, but this will. We're hoping to see 50% out of this. We got a couple of them. We're finally getting them all running here. And they feed onto the. We'll have a meter that we're going to check every so often to see what we're getting for output here.
Is that important to go back after the installation is complete and check it out from time to time?
Yep, it is. And we've gotten so many of them out there that we aren't going back on the ones that have been in 2-3 years unless we hear that they've got some issues or something. Then we'll send somebody up to check it out. And they're insured by us for the first 5 years. Any problems, anything, we take care of it.
So how close do you feel that this project is to completion now?
Should be in the next couple days.
Yep.
That's why we're here on the second day of April. We really didn't want to come on April Fool's Day. So we waited a day, and the weather's better today anyway. Are you satisfied with what's happening so far here?
So far, so good. I can't.
You'll learn how to...
I'd like to see results sooner, but
It took NYSEG.
but it takes a while.
Well, NYSEG came out to install the meter, and Don's is a CT metering. In other words, his current transformers. So they had to specially order a meter, and that took another week for it to come in. So that was that young.
Frustration.
NYSEG was here when you came installing that new
I
meter.
saw him.
Yep. So we're hopefully we'll get NYSEG out here to check it, and once they test it, another department, then it will be good to go, and it'll be left running.
There are a lot of steps involved.
Well, yeah.
And it behooves people like you, Tom, to explain all that to the customer before it begins so they don't come at you with their boxing gloves
Well,
on.
I tell you, Gordy, when we first did a few of them, I had no idea the length of time. So after you get, like you say, you get beat up on what's the hold up, and you form them, it's going to be, it's going to be a couple, 3 months after, even after it's installed, it's a month,
But the fact is, you want it to be right in the beginning.
Yeah.
And you can foresee that this solar array behind us right here will supply a lot of your electrical needs right up here.
Yeah, should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to talk a lot more about solar power later on and all the alternatives people have for their pools and their hot tubs. But right now, we're talking about a different kind of.
Yeah, we pretty much stay with the electrical. The person I work for is an electrical contractor, and he's stated that he wants to stay with the electrical, and it looks like there's more than enough work with just the electrical, not doing the hot tubs or any of the other
and
stuff.
This is PV, right?
This is PV.
What stands for?
Photovoltaics. Yeah.
Oh, see, I learned a couple.
Yeah.
I throw that stuff in just to make it seem like I know what I'm talking about, even though I'm a complete idiot when it comes to all this. It is very complicated. There are a lot of state and federal regulations.
Yeah.
But both state and federal governments are going to work hard to make it even more worthwhile for individuals and businesses. Now, we're talking about a small business. But you can do institutional work.
Yep, we've looked at some of them, and we haven't had a lot of luck with them. The incentives are quite low for institutions.
Right.
They're higher for commercial businesses, and institutions have no tax credits because they're tax free.
Oh, that's true too. Forgot about that.
So pretty much the cost of the system is pretty much their cost.
Yes.
And so when you're looking at a non-profit, a school, I've been to every school in the North Country, all the way to Keene to Malone, and they're all interested, all excited, and they're going to get a grant, but never they couldn't seem to secure any funds. So.
You know, I just want to point all these things out. I don't want there to be too many secrets. We want the solar business. The new political word in this century is transparent.
Yeah.
We want this business to be transparent because Calvin and I don't want people coming back say, "What the heck are you guys talking about?"
Right.
We want people to know what the rules and regulations are, what the process is. When did you start this project, Don?
Should I tell them?
Yep, I want to know exactly.
It's been a while.
Probably September 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a while, and then we built them through the winter, and they still have some bugs to work out in this. The tracking system and everything is all our design. We haven't borrowed from anybody.
No kidding.
Yeah, when you get up, we're going to Menards later on. You'll see the problems that are with his trackers, and that's one of the reasons that we decided we'd build our own trackers, because we didn't like the way the zone works. They work fine in the summer, but they're not very good in the winter.
Oh, that's a good point, huh?
Yeah.
What do you want to add? Anything else while we're standing here?
Well, I think everyone should be involved in this. We're all going to leave a footprint somewhere.
Well, you know, he just said a mouthful, and that's a word that we've heard a lot lately.
Yeah.
But it's important not just to decide whether solar power is cost effective for you and your home or your business, but your energy footprint.
Yeah,
I mean, the word green has taken on a whole new meaning. I mean, you know, it's always been green for me because I'm Irish, but aside from that, deciding what our carbon footprint will be.
Yeah, most of the people that I've had dealings with and sold to tend to be people that have had it in college. They've learned about it, like Don went to training on it, but somebody that's cold as far as knowing anything about solar, it's a very tough sale. They'll call, I send them the stuff, and they look through it, and I call them back, and they say, "No, we just don't think it's for us." So,
just give Tom a chance to explain. You know, it's amazing what you can accomplish over a good cup of coffee.
Yeah.
You know, in somebody's kitchen or in their business at the front counter.
Oh, yeah.
But give Tom a little chance to talk about it. Obviously, you have a passion about it.
Oh,
that's your business now.
It's finally, you know, we've been struggling to get this started, and it finally is starting to take off. And between you and me, I have some really big projects in the works that we're just waiting to hear on. So
we can't let a lot of that out of the bag, because what a terrible letdown it would be if they didn't come through. I've interviewed a lot of people in the construction business. We're doing this in early April, just as we hope. And we pray that the construction business will explode this year.
33 years at NYSEG has taught you not to let the cat out of the bag,
There's
so to speak.
a lot of things you learned at NYSEG, and some of those we won't be getting into today. Don, thanks so much for letting us come up here and stand in your backyard.
Alrighty.
I don't know if this will be a hayfield this summer or just...
No, it's my lawn.
Oh, it's your lawn?
Yeah.
Hopefully the water won't be quite as deep the next time we come up here. Good luck with all of that. Good luck with your starter business up here in the Ashley Road. And just tell our viewers what we're going to see in the rest of this program today.
We're going to go to Menards. They have six of these trackers, a little smaller than this one. And we're going to go to Norman Jolliker's. He has a roof-mounted system. And then, what was the other one we're doing? John Trombley has a ground-mounted system. So we're actually going to see all the different types of solar that we've installed over the years.
It might be supper time by the time we get done here, Tom. We'll keep checking in with you.
Alrighty.
Thanks so much, and thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Next chapter coming right up. Sun is still shining. We're on the McBride Road on our way to Menards Farm, so you can take a look at that one. But we wanted to stop at Mrs. Moore's, did you say?
Yep.
Home. Look at the size of this display. I didn't count those, but there looked like about 30 of them. There's a bunch, and I would guess that that would supply all the electrical needs of this house, and maybe, I don't know, half the neighborhood. We'll have to ask Tom about that when we get there, Calvin. That's impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we're on our way to Menards, so I just thought we'd stop and just take a quick shot of this and head for Menards.
Why not? Let's do it. Boy, I tell you, I'll follow Calvin almost anywhere. But here we are up in Moores on the Thompson Road.
Yep.
Right, Tom?
Oh, yep.
This wasn't named after you or your family, right?
No.
Okay. Gary Menard, how you doing, buddy?
We're doing good.
Good to see you here. The sun is shining. That's what this is all about, isn't it?
Perfect day for making solar.
Now, Calvin told you where we stopped. Mrs. Moore's house. You said you never saw that array.
Nope.
It's a big one. There must be 60 panels there.
You know, the guy I work for, we worked together, and he went out and spotted that one. But now he's involved in a lot of other stuff. So I do 100% of the locations and stuff, and I work with our 2 installers. And if we have one that looks a little complicated, then I bring them out. And we've got one up in Champlain. We're going to go to tomorrow, and we'll all get on the same base and get it installed. And now, so we work at them together.
For those people who might have just turned on their television set, where you been? We already had lunch. Tom Hollingsworth from Triangle. You've been doing the solar business how long yourself?
April 1st was 6 years.
6 years. April 1st.
Yep.
You started on April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
Fool's Day.
Fitting, huh?
Oh. And I bet you're still learning.
Every day we've come up with new things, and when we get, I'm signed up to 2 or 3 different newsletters that come through, and we look at different things, and so we come up with different projects and ideas, and run with them and see what happens. We're thinking that maybe the American Legions might qualify for some of this incentive money, being the veterans and stuff. So,
here's a pitch. Here's a pitch.
Yep. So we're contacting the American Legions to see if they might be interested in doing something with solar.
There are so many words that apply. There are grants. There are tax credits. There are incentives. There are rebates, and maybe a half a dozen other terms.
Now the
that apply.
government stimulus package is going to do something with solar, so we're hoping to get involved in some of that.
It certainly will. Solar and wind, and various other alternatives, and that's the whole idea of this program. Plus, we had to prove that the sun shines sometimes up in Moores, right, Gare?
Oh yeah. It's been good the last couple of weeks. Been real good.
Has it really?
Oh yeah.
How long has this project been running here for you?
I want to say about 3 years, eh, Tom?
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it was my 3rd winter. So yeah, been probably 3.5 years then.
Who would ever guess that a farm this size would go solar? How'd you get involved with it?
Well, we kept looking into it, and one day we come across Tom, and he made it all happen.
He's a spot. He's liable to be wandering down the side of the road saying, where the heck am I?
We had this little bed and breakfast in Moores that wanted solar, and then he invited a couple of farmers, and Gary ended up going with it, and he had some problems. His wife passed away, and he ended up selling the bed and breakfast, but he brought Gary and I together, and then Gary had a lot of knowledge, and that's pretty much what it takes. If somebody's got knowledge about solar and they're really interested in it, then a lot of times they'll end up buying a system. But
You had been studying this beforehand?
I've studied this for a couple of years and checking out which would do better, which would do less. Actually, it looks like the solar panels are doing a little bit better than wind panels because these here are maintenance free. They figure 45-year life expanded.
Yep.
I don't believe a wind tower can go that long without being worked on, but
And I'll bet you Connie had nothing to say about it, right?
well, Connie's the numbers crunch person, so
I
had to
we made the numbers work.
crunchers.
Gary was ready to go. Connie was the one I had to convince. So.
Oh, really?
Connie's the one
Yep.
that makes the payment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did I tell you anything?
Well, somebody got to milk the cows, right?
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about the size of your farm here, Gare.
Well, we milk 80 cows right now. This is providing probably, I'm going to say, a third of our power. We have no backup. If the power goes off, these are off also. We chose not to go that way.
Right.
Like right now, during the day, we're only using probably 2 kW to run the farm. So everything else on these are pushing back on NISAC right now, on the grid. Now, at short time, we're going to pull it back out. So if it goes, depending on what rate we're using when we send it back in, if we pull it out at a cheaper rate, it's actually a plus for us. But our light bill from 1 year ago till now, we just did the tax, it was $3,000 less. So that they're doing something.
That's not bad.
Nope, it isn't. That's what we'd hoped for. We were looking at 25, but he said a third. So
That was also, we went back to, we got away, before we did these, we got away from the electric hot water heater because it was inefficient. It was, since we started with these, last year we went back because the oil went up to $4 a gallon. It was more efficient to go back to the electric. So that $3,000 less with the electric hot water. We got an 80-gallon electric hot water here in the milk house, which is a big one. It takes a lot of power.
There's so many things to think about when you're getting into that, and
Well,
that's
that
one of
was
the
a-
reasons we came here.
Well, one of the things before we decided on the solar system was he had a farm audit done, energy audit done, and these are the things that they suggested doing is to take care of these electrical things, and then see if we can get his usage down, and then put the solar system in after.
Was it a big challenge to figure out how many panels to put up?
No, we put up as many, I believe, as the government let us.
Oh, is that the way it worked?
They wouldn't let us go anymore.
Oh.
They don't want, I believe they don't want us to put up enough, they don't want us to sell back.
Well, the thing is now, though, Gary's on a residential meter because he's a small farmer, and they bumped that up to 25 kW now.
Oh, they did.
So they've gone from 10 to 25. Gary's system's actually a 12, but it feeds into a 10 kW.
So next year we're going to put.
Well, I've got a couple of
Never
them
know.
that are looking at expanding. I've got one up in Saranac that he put in a 10 kW, and he's talking about maybe going bigger. So
No kidding.
yeah.
So much to think about, though.
Yep.
And you had to learn. Farmers
yeah.
are pretty smart people
Well, this became
because they
Gary's
have to go by the
hobby.
seat of their pants a lot of times. That's how you get your
I used to
education.
kid him that he had a hobby now. Before he just did all that farming stuff. Now he had a hobby. You
Now
know?
we get to watch these every day.
He plays them. He adjusts them too. These are mainly adjustable.
Yeah.
Are they really?
In the wintertime, they'll step more toward us. In the wintertime, they're going to be like this. Right now, actually, at 1 o'clock, they look kind of weird because they're totally flat. They look like something from outer space,
Yeah.
but it works out well.
Where the sun is.
Now, why are these different from the other ones that we looked at earlier?
These work off a Freon system, and what happens is the Freon evaporates, it moves over to the other side of the panel and condenses. Well, that condensing weight causes that panel now to rotate.
Come on,
See, these are
Freon.
These are perfectly balanced. When I unhook that bolt to flip them up, it's like you could use your thumb and just. They're perfectly. That's why the Freon. See on the end it says ZoneWorks on it.
Yeah.
There's a tube there. There's Freon in that one. Now, because the sun would come up in the east, it heated that one. See where the ZoneWorks thing is? It heated that and it pulled all the Freon into that one. So it weighted it down and it came back this way.
Yeah.
Well, at noon, anytime after noon, it'll start heating one on top because the sun will be over here. It'll heat that unit up on top. It'll actually pull them back toward the east. Now, at 5 o'clock, every one of these are going to be the totally opposite of what they are right now. They're going to be facing the east because the sun will be that way.
West.
So it works
West,
west,
yeah.
yeah.
West.
Yeah.
One of those
Yeah.
directions.
Yeah.
But that's far different
Yeah.
from the mechanical
Well,
versions that we saw before.
Well, that's why we started building them in our shop. Like when I was down at Hanson's, I mentioned the fact that we weren't happy with the way Gary's worked. So we started making our own, and they run off 2 motors, and these motors cause it to. When it's facing east, these things are facing east. When it's facing west, they're facing west. And
So does it run off a time thing?
yeah, it's based
Like a
on
clock?
just like a small computer program involved in it. So.
Amazing.
Yep. So those aren't balanced. Those are really driven in there. I think it's like 700 to 1, where this little geared motor will cause that thing to turn. So we're hoping that these here will be a lot more efficient because Gary has a problem with his in the wintertime. We didn't realize that when I sold them to him, but in the wintertime, once it gets really cold, then that Freon does not evaporate. So now
It's in below 10 below.
No kidding.
They're as efficient. But also, what he's talking about is when the wind blows here, the wind will have a tendency to hold them in one spot. They won't move.
I see.
So the electric ones that he's putting in now
Got
will
power
move
to move
regardless.
it. Yeah,
They'll move
I see
regardless.
what you mean.
They'll move on the clock,
so
Yeah.
which is probably a little better system, but somebody had to try it out.
But in retrospect, Gary's is considerably less expensive than the motor-driven one and that sort of thing. So, and Gary locks them down in the wintertime, so he keeps them facing south. So it's almost like a stationary system for
Oh,
the
no
wintertime.
kidding.
Actually, yeah, no, I don't. I don't
Oh,
know.
you don't?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Did you use
The
you
it?
wind holds himself.
At the first.
The first year, no, I was gonna, but I never did.
Oh, okay.
Actually, because If I lock them, they'll probably turn twice a week, and when it's real cold out. But if you lock them, they stay that way all the time. That seemed to have worked better leaving them alone.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I talked to you about that, and I never told you the difference, did I?
No, you never did.
So what we're saying is you really studied this thing.
Oh yeah. Well,
Before, during, and after.
I wanted to go with the wind. I was sold I wanted to go wind and put the
Yeah.
wind tower up and all that. But after you started looking at these, the maintenance is a big thing. Of course, there's always maintenance on a farm.
Oh, gosh, for
but I'm not
everything.
going to climb 100 foot in the air to do the maintenance.
Well, we've talked about that earlier today,
Yeah.
and for home use and farm use, wind towers are not always stable when you get 50, 60 mile an hour winds.
Yeah.
Right,
You saw
right.
what happened to one of those
sometimes
wind towers.
That was a malfunction of electrical, wasn't it? It didn't shut
Electrical
down.
malfunction.
break
Yeah.
didn't work.
Still a little scary though, isn't it? I
Exactly.
guess that baby was really humming before it went
I can
over.
only imagine.
Yep.
But anyway,
Yeah. But
This is a good example of a project that's been underway. How many years now?
3 years.
3 years.
yeah.
So you should be seeing good results, and you are.
We are right now on 365-day average. We're averaging 50 kW a day, 365 days a year. Because during the summer, actually from here, I'm actually close to hitting 100 kW right now.
Really?
If the sun will stay up all day, I think it was last week we hit 90 twice. But in the wintertime, they're only going to do 50, so we averaged it out. We took how many they generated, and we averaged it over a year, and 50 kW a day.
This is a
That
perfect time of
sounds
year.
pretty good
Yeah,
to
this
me.
is perfect time because it's cold, and then you have extended hours, light hours, so the two work really well. And then in the summertime, you have longer hours, but it's hotter, so the panels aren't quite as efficient as they are when they're extremely cold.
What does a normal house use in a day? 5, 6 maybe?
I don't know, they're about 6,000 kilowatt hours a year, so probably just less than 20 a day, probably. Yeah. So
We could power 3-4 houses with these at 50 kW a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't seem like much
And
on the farm.
Let me figure how long a cord would be from here to Morrisonville. Probably not worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You know, we've been talking about the words cost effective. And I'm sure you consider this, especially if
Oh, yeah.
Connie's the number cruncher.
Oh yeah.
She was talking about this in the beginning, and you want to make sure you're going to live long enough
Yep.
to get a payback.
If we don't, the son will be on the farm. My oldest son's staying on the farm, so he'll benefit also.
That's the way Don's looking at
Don
it.
said,
Down
yep.
at
Don said
down
the
at
same
the
thing.
starter shop,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
My kids are here. My son's running
Yep.
the business now. This is, and he points out back and he tells his son, "There's your inheritance right there, baby."
The other thing too is we were able to get Gary a USDA grant that paid 25% of the cost of the
Come
system.
on, no kidding.
You know, USDA and NYSERDA grant,
Yep.
2 grants,
Yep.
which paid probably 3/4 of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we had the farm audit done. I don't think you had to pay for that either. Did you have to pay
Nope.
anything?
Who did the audit? Not NYSEG.
Nope. A retired NYSEG, Tom Magleni.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
Doesn't
Tom.
everybody know
Yep.
Tom?
Yep. So Tom.
Couldn't work there very long without knowing Tom.
Yep. So Tom became. Tom was the ag rep for a while. Learned about farms, and then.
I never knew that. I
Yep.
just learned
Yep.
something today. He's a good guy and a very smart
He's
man.
probably one of the smartest people I know.
Yeah, he is.
Very,
love,
very
to,
nice.
love to talk to people.
Yeah.
Of course, it's easy with me because everybody's smarter than I am, so that's no problem. So you're not sorry you did it, Gare?
Oh no, not by any means. No, I'm toying with the idea of probably putting in a grant, see if I could do a wind, and compare the wind to the solar. It'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
This guy's an
Same place.
experimenter, huh?
Hey.
A lot of people are doing that because, as we said before, we spent a lot of time doing a couple of full-length documentaries on wind power with Noble when they put up their big towers. I was completely fascinated by the whole concept. And who doesn't think about alternative energy these days?
It doesn't cost you anything to run them.
Gary's a very
The sun's
progressive
free.
farmer.
Yeah.
You know,
Gary's a very progressive farmer because now I've been trying to promote these things for 3 years to other farmers, and Gary's it. And I thought I had one sold last year, and he said no, wait to this year, and then milk is down half price.
Well,
yeah, Nook's down to the
You'll never be able to keep up with that.
No.
It's something we've talked about on Hometown Cable forever and ever and ever. Milk prices are,
yeah. See,
it's a crazy world we live in.
the thing that's changed between now and 10 years ago, before it was slow hump and
Yeah.
slow down. Now it goes up and it goes down and up and down, and
Yeah,
it's a
when
lot
you think
faster
you're
pace.
riding high. It's like my savings in the stock market, right?
Well, right now we're at the bottom.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah.
So
I just have a feeling, of course, I'm the eternal optimist. I have a feeling that
Things are gonna
things are
turn.
going to get better and that the sun's going to come up tomorrow. And,
Yep.
gotta think positive.
you know, we don't think about it, how many cloudy days and how many sunny days there are. And I don't know how much sunshine you have to get
How many
this thing
cloudy?
humming.
How many sunshine days there was in October?
No,
5.
really?
The whole month.
Are you kidding?
The whole month.
Do you mark it on your calendar?
October, November, and December are the worst months of all.
Yeah.
Well, them are your shortest days too.
Well,
also.
that's where we live.
But there was a lot of cloudy days this year. You notice it more when you use it.
Well, you'd notice it a lot.
I
I don't know if you mark it down. Do you count
I
them?
marked it up here. That was the only
Yeah.
month that kept track.
Farmers have ways
Yeah.
of them putting it up here,
The
right?
only month that got track because it was day after day after day. It was like it was almost depressing. Where's the sun? There's no sun.
But if you get a couple hours of sun, that counts, right?
Oh yeah. Even if the sun doesn't come out, these are between all of them. They'll probably produce 10 to 15 kW without the sun. So,
Oh, no
Cloudy-
kidding.
cloudy day.
See,
Yep.
that I didn't know. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yep. It's not a lot, but
Yep.
it's enough to do a house. That's for sure.
And we
Yeah.
figure this northeast we're about 4.3 light hours. That's on average how many hours of sun we get on the average every day. When you get down southwest like New Mexico, they're about 6.5. So they definitely get more sun hours than we.
No kidding.
Now-
Yeah.
Tom Magnolani told me that this is a 12K system. A 12K system on the wind won't produce as much as these will.
Really?
Yep. And it doesn't make sense because the wind can blow 24/7.
Yeah.
And these only generate, what, right now, 12, 13 hours a day.
Yeah.
He looked at the meter and we looked at our 6-month checkup. He came, he looked at it, and he says, there's no way a 12 kW wind would have done this. This many KWs.
Well, that's
I didn't
interesting.
realize
I
that
would,
either.
I would
I didn't
trust
know
what
that.
he said.
Yep. He seemed to be
Because-
his numbers
Yep.
fellow.
He is a
He's
number.
an expert.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
He's anytime he got a spreadsheet from corporate, he doctored it up and then sent it back to him corrected.
Don't you love it? And they loved him too. I
Oh,
bet
yeah.
you they didn't forget that
Yeah,
name.
Yeah.
But you know, we live in a North Country, and I never would have guessed 20 years ago that solar power would kick in like it's doing right now. You know, it had when it first came around, people were interested because it was a novel idea.
Yeah.
People weren't sure it would be a payoff for them, especially farmers. And so then the curve went down. Now it seems, now that we're into a new century,
Yep.
things are starting to
The
prove.
grants are the key.
Yeah.
Because without the grants, I couldn't have been
Well,
able
they're
to
going
do
to get better.
it. I hope so, hopefully.
They're going to get better from all the studying I've done.
Yeah. This is a $140,000 system,
Yeah.
which I got $100,000 in grants. So without that, I wouldn't have done it.
Well, think about that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
It's true.
because that's
I did. Get with Connie.
Yeah. That's why we started. That's where we started to crunch the numbers. And
Yeah.
with a 40 dishing out 40 was fine. That worked out well. We also got with that was I think it was $38,000 in tax incentives. Which that following year milk was high that year, and we used them all in 1 year. So
Plus, did you get a low interest loan too? I think.
Yep.
Yep. So you
well,
got
a NYSERDA,
Yeah.
we got a loan at 8% interest. NYSERDA paid 4% of that, and we paid 4%. So it was a 4% loan.
that program's gone.
Yeah.
That program they've done away with, which was
Did
was a real good selling point. You know?
NYSERDA?
Yeah, NYSERDA.
But there are new programs. There are new energy laws that have passed. He's
Yeah.
mentioned the stimulus package, which is
Yeah.
going to help build wind towers and more solar.
Yeah, we'll see.
In this area, we don't know exactly how it's going to affect New York State. New York State,
Yeah.
interestingly enough, even though it's a very expensive state to live in, is on the cutting edge of things like this.
Yeah, we're probably.
And since you don't smoke cigarettes, you don't have to worry about paying $10 a pack. Did you see that latest in the news in the last couple of days? Boy, am I glad I quit in 1975.
Yeah, I never started, so that was a
Yeah.
good thing. Now, you study the wind at all? Are they still limiting them to 100 feet
You know,
for residents?
I have not a clue.
It was, I believe it was in Clinton County. Any residents put a wind tower up, they were limited to 100 feet.
Yeah.
Of course, who's got $1 million to put out a 300-footer anyways?
Well, those babies approaching 400 feet. Calvin stood there till he got a crick in his
Look
neck.
that way. You can
Well,
see every one of them. They're moving.
Oh, of course they are. They're going.
Oh, yeah.
See?
If I sit in the kitchen, I can just about see them like they're that far away. Unreal.
When
I
the
like
first ones got up down there around Cherubusco, and Calvin and I were there from the time they were digging in the ground to put the concrete in until they put the pod on top. And he's getting whiplash with his neck trying to get it up there. And the little teeny people up there,
Gotta be
and
interesting
the
to
crane
watch it.
operators and so on. It's fascinating.
Yep.
But no less fascinating is solar power. And the words renewable energy keep coming into my mind. Because we hope, as long as we live and our children and grandchildren after them, we hope that old sun is shining. If it's not shining some morning, then we won't have to sweat this out, will we?
Yeah.
However, it's always there.
My
There'll
big-
always be wind, there'll always be sun.
My big concern when we put them up, because I get a lot of wind here, was whether they'd hold up. But as you can see,
Yeah. Now, we
They
got
haven't
we got a
moved.
little breeze, 8-9 miles an hour right
Nice
now.
cooperating today,
we've had
huh?
some 60-mile-an-hour winds. They never bothered. They didn't turn that day, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm going to find
Well,
one of them in the
they-
house one day. But because they just bolted onto that thing, but it's unbelievable how tough they are.
Yeah. And they're getting tougher all the time.
Yeah, our new ones are even tougher than Gary's system here. So we're hoping that you'll go by someplace and there'll be 10 or 12 of these all turning together.
Isn't
That's
that
the
great?
goal. It's the goal to put them in maybe a 9 3x3 square and have them all turn at the same time.
Wouldn't that be nice? So Gary and Connie are kind of poster children for you, aren't they? here?
I thought Gary and Connie's farm would take off and I'd be selling to all these farmers, but I'm convinced Gary's progressive and
It's a money issue
Yeah.
because of the milk and stuff. People, I wanted them. That's why they were here. But other farms, you got to convince them. But the payment on them is what deters people. You know, they don't. If you think long term, on an 8-year payback on these, and after 8 years,
Yeah.
you're home free.
Most farmers are pretty conservative in a lot of ways because they've been screwed by Mother Nature and by the government
Yep.
and by so many different things. And now
Yep.
that they're able to get a handle on something, this puts you in a control that you didn't have before.
Right. But my bill, we've been here 22, 23 years now. The first 10 years, from when I started to 10 years, my bill doubled. So I said another 10 years is going to double again. So why not? With these, they aren't going to double. Like I said, it dropped $3,000 last year.
Because you probably won't increase the size of your farm, right? You
Nope.
won't add any
Nope.
land. You
Nope.
probably won't add another 200 cows.
Nope, definitely not.
You're doing what you want to do right
Yeah.
now.
And at size, we can handle it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
There's
Without
Connie and
having
I.
to hire 10 people.
Don't
and-
hire anybody.
Yeah.
My oldest son is on the farm full time now, and Connie and I, 3 of us run it.
Well, you're lucky you convinced your oldest son to stay on the farm
sure am.
full time because we've interviewed lots of farmers.
It's nice to pass it on
and
to
the,
somebody.
the
keep
kids
them
are
down on
saying
the farm.
sayonara. See ya.
Nobody wants to work like this anymore.
Well, that's why, that's why I admire Calvin does too, because he's been a farm boy all his life. That's why we admire farmers. You guys are a breed
Yep.
apart.
Yep.
And, and you're smart. And that changes the image that some city folks might have of
If you
people who
aren't-
live in the country.
If you aren't today, you aren't going to survive. It's the farming for dummies is gone.
That's exactly right.
But it's a numbers thing. I wish it would change as far as the ups and downs, but
Now,
keep
let me
saying
ask you a
eventually.
silly question. Was this a family farm before
No.
you came here?
no, I've been a different individual.
No kidding. So you
No.
just bought it
Yep.
at some point in time,
22, 23 years ago. In 86, we moved here.
but you weren't a farmer before that?
I worked for a farmer.
Oh, you did?
Connie and I are both farmers. We've been farmers all our life. My father had a farm, her father got a farm. Now her brothers took over that farm, and my father's farm's out of business. I'm the only one out of 8 of us that's still part of this farming.
Isn't that amazing? It's a whole other topic, and we've talked about it many times, what's happened to the beautiful family farms and how life is changing on the farm. But believe me, here on the Menard Farm on the Thompson Road in Moores, those panels right there have changed the way you look at a lot of things, haven't they?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Environment, it makes you that much more aware of the environment, How many
Well-
people get up every day and think about the sun?
Farmers,
Probably not too many.
farmers think about
the
weather,
all the time.
The
and
weather runs us.
Yeah.
it really does.
It sure does.
And you gotta be able to lick that finger really good and hold it up there early in the morning.
But as long as I've known, and as long as my father-in-law and my father, we never had a total failed crop year. So
Well,
you know how it goes.
that's more than a lot of people can say,
Yep.
Yeah.
right?
Well, usually one year, if you have a bad corn year, the hay is good that year. If you have a bad hay year, then the corn's that good that year. There's very seldom. I guess back a couple of years ago, it got pretty hard in Vermont, where they got a lot more rain than we did. But as far as failed crop, or you didn't have any feed for your cows, I don't remember.
We've got a lot of things going for us here in Clinton County. Actually, your work, Tom, brings you into several different counties.
Oh yeah, we've gone into Franklin. We're down into Essex. I do a lot of work in the Adirondack Park, and we're actually we have a system sold to the APA. 6 of these trackers, the ones that we make in our shop, we're just waiting for the state funding to come through on. It's been approved and everything. We're just waiting.
Kidding.
Yep. So we'll be selling down in Raybrook. We've got 6 of them that we're going to be installing down there.
To their headquarters?
Yep, behind the headquarters. Yep.
When you
That's
say
something.
6, do you mean six
Six.
like this, or 6 panels?
Six trackers.
Whole sets like this?
Yep. They'll be theirs are going to actually have 24 panels. They'll be just like Don Hanson's.
The bigger panels than these?
Yep, bigger panels, 230s.
Interesting.
They're one of the new ones are 5.5 kW.
Okay.
So they're considerably more expensive too, but a lot more power being produced.
Gary, let me ask you a silly question before we wrap up this segment of our trip today. Do you are you willing to talk to people who are interested in your experience with solar?
Certainly.
Give you a ring. You ever
Yep.
go and talk to groups or anything, or?
We've had a group came last Wednesday, Canadian group. They're made up of 60 farmers.
No kidding.
Yep.
From
And they
across
came-
the border, huh?
They crossed the border, they came out here, went to Miners Institute, and then they went to the big farm in Peru. They wanted to visit a farm that was more their size, which was us. And they drive in the yard and you see,
They
of course,
like
they
that,
don't
huh?
they've never seen this before. And a lot of questions.
Well, I think it behooves everybody at this stage to start studying solar.
Well, Gary and Connie were gracious enough when we first got this done. We had an open house at NYSERDA, helped finance some, but Gary and Connie kicked in a lot of money on it, and we had a lot of farmers come, a lot of
Worked out well.
questions, but we still
Didn't get any sales.
didn't get any sales. But it bumped the knowledge level up, and we had a guy from the USDA come up from Syracuse, and we had the head of NYSERDA who ran the funding department and stuff came up, and so we had a really nice turnout. And
Well-
the press came. We had a nice article in the press.
The idea is to get people thinking about it and talking about it.
Yeah,
Whether or not
yeah.
they ever decide to put in a
That's the thing.
system in their backyard
Yeah.
or on their roof or somewhere, think about it and studying it, but don't
Yeah.
knock it till you've tried it.
Right. Well, they just, if they want to give our office a call, and we've got a packet put together that we can send out, and that way they get a chance to kind of look on it at their own. And if they still have more questions, certainly can answer any questions they
Is there
have.
grants out there for homeowners? Is there?
Not
There might be. In the
one of the things
future.
we're thinking is that the 30% tax credit. Remember you got the full 30%
Right.
as a small business. Well, they're opening that up now to the residential person, and it's being treated as a grant. So that 30% tax credit will actually, they get a check back in the mail after tax day and not have it drag on for 5-6 years trying to get it used up.
Nice thing about the grants is you don't have to pay tax on them.
Now,
Wow.
the whole thing is going to become a lot more user friendly, I think,
Yeah.
in the next year or so, and we're going to see infinite number of changes. Again, we're recording this on the 2nd day of April 2009. This program will air who knows how many times in the future. Our viewers will be able to see it around the world, in Holland where they've had windmills for a long time, and everywhere else where the internet is available on Plattsburgh.com, and our viewers can look at this program and many others there. So we're trying to lay the groundwork today, trying to explain to people why people like Gary have decided to go this route, why people like Don Hanson and others have decided to put up solar panels. And like I said before, don't be negative about something until you've at least read the book.
Well, Don, he's just looking at the future. He says, I'd like to be able to get some of my energy costs under control, and the electrical be under control after we install this solar system. So he's got. I think he burns a lot of wood, so he's pretty well set there. He's he's very attuned to what energy's doing, and
More and more people are
Yeah.
these days. We're far less wasteful in so many ways than we have been for much of our lives. When gasoline was, 5 gallons for $1 when I was a young guy and started to drive, and things were a lot different now. So,
Now it's $1 gallon for $5.
well,
The other way around, yeah.
but it could have been worse, right?
I suppose.
All right.
I suppose.
Thank you so much. Anything else you want to add about your system that you can think of right now before we wrap it up?
If you're thinking solar or wind wears out, solar doesn't.
If we had Connie out here, she'd be good for another hour and a half. I know
Yep.
she would.
She had a she had a prior appointment for today. She couldn't be here, but
Yeah.
she wished she could. But
Well, maybe who knows?
You never know.
Maybe we'll come back. Thank you, Gary. I'll shake your hand. I like the way you do business.
you're down.
Thomas, where are we going next?
I don't know. Where are you going to?
Where are we going next? Do you know?
We're going to stop at Jollikers and go to Tremblay's.
Stop at Jollikers and go to Tremblay's. All right, stay with us. We're talking solar power. So we're on the Mason Road. I'll follow you. I told you I'd follow you anywhere, but this is getting crazy here. We're doing the whole North Country. This is the Norman Jolliker place, right?
Norman and Brenda, yeah.
Norman and Brenda. Is that one of your outfits up there, Thomas?
Yep, these are 200-watt GE panels. We were having trouble getting the Kyocera that we were using, and so we went with the GEs, and these are 200 watts, and there's 20 of them, so they have a 4,000 or a 4 kW solar system on their garage roof.
Now, is this for home use?
Yep, it pretty much covers the 100% of their home usage.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
With a display that small. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, well, they're very conservative people. There's just the two of them, and they're, he has a home generator, for safety.
Oh,
and
sure, of course.
And I think they burn wood, and so they're very, very conservative people. So that pretty much covers the whole usage of their house.
Now, how long has that been up there, Tom?
Probably 2 years. I would think about 2 years. We had a little bit of problem with one of the inverters, and we took it out and put our spare in, and then sent theirs away, got it fixed, and we just installed it back in again. So we make sure that if there's any problems with the systems, we take care of it right away and try and...
Yeah, that's something we haven't talked about, but I'm sure all the various aspects of these things are somehow warranted, right?
Yep, 5 years. We warranty the whole system for 5 years. So if there's any problems at all, we take care of it.
That's nuts. You wouldn't even see those necessarily driving by. It blends right in with everything.
99% of people driving by here don't even know it.
No, I said...
How about snow accumulation?
It does accumulate. Once one little space opens up, then it melts off really fast. We have some people that there's a man down in Jay that can just reach the bottom with a long broom, and he takes a broom wraps a rag around, and he just runs it across the bottom, and he says when the sun comes out, it just melts off right away. So, and the only thing that doesn't melt off is that freezing rain. Freezing rain tends to stick to the panels, and it takes a while for it to finally get off of there.
That's our great North Country, isn't it?
Yes,
What
exactly.
a difference.
Yeah.
Well, there's another kind of setup. We've seen several different setups today, and it's a good thing we're making the tour. But don't ask me to go back there all by myself.
Well, this one was kind of fortunate because he has a piece of large conduit running between the garage and the house that he runs his generator on. So we're able to put our wires to the basement in that, and we didn't have to dig up any driveway or anything.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, so it worked out really well.
I like it. All right. Where are we going next, Calvin?
John Trombley, here we come.
Where does he live?
He's on Route 9.
Okay, I can handle that. Okay, we'll see you there, Thomas.
All right, thank you.
And we've moved again. Tom Hollingsworth, here we are on Route 9 at the John Trombley residence, right?
Yep.
And Heather.
Heather Trombley, right.
And we pulled into the wrong driveway, and the people are wondering, why did they all pull into our driveway? But we didn't know until Tom told us to go next door. Anyway, this is a nice setup out in the field.
Yep, this is a 10 kW setup. This produces, still doesn't produce all John's power, but it's probably 80%. His house uses quite a bit there of power, and I think that since the winter thing, they've gone using some electric heaters and stuff when oil got $4.
People have been doing that, you know.
So
One thing I noticed right away, Tom, is that it's kind of stationary, so it doesn't follow the sun, right?
These don't move.
Nope, these don't move. No, that's but his still makes power probably 9 to 3, and he makes a lot of power in just this stationary setup here.
Now, you said these have been here several years.
I think his was right up near the beginning, so his have probably been here 5 years anyways.
No kidding, 5 years.
Yep.
And as we approached these panels, you said you make the skids.
Yep.
Explain how that works.
Well, we make the skids and the strut. It's all made in the shop. The panels are mounted on, and then the skids are slid onto our trailer and then unloaded with our. We have a little backhoe front end loader that's loaded with forks, and we just bring it over to the site and anchor it down. So, and then we just trench into the panel box normally, or we've started tapping in below the meter on some big systems.
So this has been here for a while. This is a very interesting system, and I was blown away when I first walked up to it to see how clean those panels remain.
Yeah, it looks
after all
almost
those
new,
years.
huh? Yeah, it looks almost
Looks
new.
almost brand new, no dust or
Yeah.
anything on it.
That's one of the beauties of solar, is that it's pretty maintenance free, you know. Yeah. So,
Well, you know, we learned that at the last at the Menard farm. Maintenance free, and he smiled when he said that.
Yeah, exactly, because a farmer has all kinds of chores, you know. So.
Well, and you know something else you mentioned that I really must include in this conversation. I mentioned Keith Herculow, the city clerk,
Yeah.
my favorite local historian, who has bought an older retirement place, he calls it, out
Yeah.
in Peru near the
Yeah.
Eccles Road.
Yeah.
And he talked about solar power.
I think we put a 5 or a 6 kW system out at his, and it was pretty much identical to one of these rather than the two.
I asked him last week when he was going to do it. He said it's in.
Yep, it's in. Yeah, we got it in, and it went really smooth. And Keith has a little tractor, and he helped us.
Oh, of course.
Get, you know,
He'd have to
get
have his
yeah,
fingers in
yeah,
it somehow.
Yeah.
You know, we mentioned maintenance, and of course, one of the most conscientious people we know that for alternate energy is Rob Roy up in Murtaugh Hill, and he has told us many times that the solar is more dependable than the wind,
Oh, yes.
because you know, even on a cloudy day, you'll get some kind of. And he's on a hill, so plus the maintenance part is a big factor, especially as you get older and don't want to climb.
We haven't been to his place in a couple of years, but he hasn't got anything like this. Hey, John, Gordy Little, how are you? Let me get over next to you. How you been?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Well,
Busy.
what do you think of this setup?
Maintenance free.
What did he say?
Except for shoveling the snow off it once in a while,
Well,
but
we all
it's not a problem.
various of us have to shovel different things in our lifetime, so a little snow. Hopefully that's the end of that this year.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. Yeah, it seems to be working out pretty good.
We were trying to remember, Tom and I, how long this has been here. 5 years?
3
Oh, it's only 3.
3 years.
3 years.
It's 5.
Yep. So
How did you get interested in this in the first place? I've been asking everybody that today.
would say through Greg. I'm friends with Greg, the owner of Triangle, and I saw a lot of other people starting to do it, so thought I'd get on the bandwagon and
Well,
give it a shot.
It sounds like it's a pretty darn good bandwagon.
Well, it's an investment. Yep. So.
Now, how much of your power for your home do you think this might supply?
Well, we were
Over
looking
half?
at that the other day.
Yes, maybe.
I averaged it out last night. Over a 3-year period, my average electric bill is $58 for the 3 years a month. It's $58 a month.
I know a lot of people paying a lot more than
Yeah,
that.
I looked at what it probably should have been. It was probably should have been around $150 or $160 a month average.
3/4.
Yeah, so it's
That's
I
pretty good.
use quite a bit. I mean, I'm not real conservative at times with the hot tub and the swimming pool. So
Yeah, we know how that goes.
yeah.
Now, you're in business yourself.
Yes.
What's
yes.
the name of that business?
Modern Mechanical Fab.
We have to give it a little
Yep,
shot
yep,
here,
yep.
right?
We do stainless steel and steel fabrication and aluminum. And I'm also getting into thermal solar systems. So I've got a hot water system on the south side of my house.
Well, we happened to notice
You
that on the
noticed that.
way in
Yeah.
because I
Absolutely.
looked at it and I
Yeah.
had this knee-jerk reaction. What the
Yeah.
heck is that? I didn't know if it was a fancy awning. What is it?
Yeah, well, that's what it's set up for. Also, it's new technology with the vacuum tubes and
We'll talk about it when we go.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll get over there. We'll do the electric later.
That's all.
The lightning strike.
Yeah,
Oh, you know, we were walking in here and somebody said,
Yeah.
Tom said, you know, lightning hit this place and did a number.
If you can see the that's the remnants of the trench. I have an underground dog fence going around my property.
Oh,
and,
yes.
Yes, and it struck a tree right. Well, you can see it laying down now.
Oh, yeah.
The tree that's broken in half. Well, that's where the lightning struck, and it dug a trench, you know, about 250 feet each way where the dog wire was. And
Oh, it did? It hit the wire?
it hit. Well, it came down
fried
the
it?
tree, and the wire went over the root. So it followed that wire.
Kind of. Did it fry the wire?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
1,800 feet of wire was melted.
Oh, baby.
Where it ties into my shop, it was all burned on the wall. You'll see that after.
No kidding.
Yep.
Where were you when all this transpired?
Well, I happened to be looking out the window 5 minutes or 2 minutes before, trying to take pictures of lightning, and I gave up on it, and 2 minutes later that
You had your own picture, huh?
Yeah, well, we thought the windows were going to blow out. It was amazing.
Was it a huge noise?
Oh yeah, yeah. And like I said, I thought the windows were going to break. Standing there with my daughter, and we saw smoke over by the driveway coming out of the culvert, and I didn't
Smoke?
realize till
That's
after.
not a good sign.
No, I
Smoke
thought
out of the
that's
culvert.
where it struck, but it was the wire had melted. So the wire was burning, and there were rocks 100 feet away from where it struck. I mean, it melted every phone line in the house. It is amazing. It melted the cable off the cable TV off the.
God, when did this all happen?
Oh, when was it? It was last summer. Yeah.
During the summer, during a big thunder lightning storm.
And it damaged one panel on the corner. I think it was one or two panels. I think you replaced. And
insurance helped out with that?
Yes, it did.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
nobody got hurt, thank goodness?
No, nobody got hurt.
No big fire?
No, it was close though. I mean,
Yeah.
you see the shop was
Well, that's
the
pretty
wall
close
was
to the house, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing the power and lightning.
Oh,
Only we
boy.
can harness that, right?
Oh, well. Not this week anyway, right?
No.
Right the key, right?
Well, I'm glad you're happy with this display. We'll walk over to the house and talk about your other part of the business.
All right, we
All
can
right.
take a look at that.
Let's do that. Yeah, we brought Salvador Dali back from the grave to do a little surrealistic work on the wall here. John, is that really where the lightning hit it?
Well, that's where the wire to the adapter for the dog fence was running, and that's where it burnt.
Boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom, all the way across there.
Yeah.
Did it blow it right off the wall?
Oh, yeah, the little, yeah, that
Controller
was
box
pieces.
was gone?
Yeah, on the other side of the shop.
But it didn't actually burn through the wall.
No, you can.
A lot of things to be grateful for,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. I came out here and it was filled with smoke, so I was a little nervous. I had no idea what the extent of the damage was when it hit, but
Fortunately, that's a once in a lifetime.
yeah,
You hope.
hopefully,
They
yeah.
say it doesn't strike twice, but I wouldn't count on it. Now, what do we got on the wall here, Thomas?
Okay. These are SMA inverters. They're 2,500 watts. So when we were out looking at that array is actually in 4 separate pieces.
Right.
So each piece of that array goes to one inverter. And this inverter then takes the DC power coming from the panels, converts it to AC, and then feeds it back into the John's system, and whatever's excess goes back out onto the grid. So each inverter is independent from the other inverter. They're made by a company called SMA, which is a German company, and they call them Sunny Boys. And they also have a Sunny Wind for the wind.
Isn't that
producers,
amazing?
yeah.
Sunny
So-
Boy and Sunny Wind.
Yeah, yeah. And these are the SMA tends to be the top of the line, and so we tend to use just the top of the line stuff. So hopefully we don't have problems with our inverters.
Well, you like to think, as you said in the beginning, that these things can be maintenance free, so you'd
Yeah.
prefer not to have any glitches
Yeah,
once you get it set up and running.
There was a glitch with the lightning, though. I mean,
Oh, that's a glitch.
Yeah.
With a capital
we only
G.
had to replace one, and it had actually had blown the fuses right out of the bottom of 2 of them. But the fuses did protect the other one. You might want to zoom in on the power meter, because that's a pretty good visual of power being produced right now. So
Don't you love the
kind of
faster that baby
yeah.
spins, the better it is?
so that's kind of spinning backwards.
Yeah, that's kind of neat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the meter that we put on, so that it records right from the very beginning how much solar power he's actually generated. So that feeds back into John's system. So every solar system has a meter on it, so we know how much power it's generating. And if it comes in low, we take readings every so often, and we try and find out if we've got a problem someplace. So we get readings for the first 6 months for the first 3 years, and after that, kind of rely on the customer to kind of keep an eye on it.
We spent a lot of time talking about solar power today. That's a general focus of this program, and it's something we've wanted to do for a long time, and get down in the trenches and talk to people like you, John. You're a professional guy. Did you have to think about this for a long time before you actually began installation of this system?
Well, I didn't think about it for a long time. No, I talked to Greg several times and talked to other people that he had installed them for. So I guess I was just kind of looking for a place to invest something and get a return on my money. So
Well, it's not. This is a good kind of investment based on my indoctrination from Thomas.
what
who-
the banks are doing right now, I guess it
Well,
was a good investment.
Well,
because-
that's another factor that we haven't even put into the equation today,
This
have
is,
we?
yeah, this is a guaranteed return on your money right here. And when I send out a sheet, I give people an idea what kind of rate of return they can look at. And it's around 3, 4, 5%, depending on. It's higher for.
Way better than my savings account.
It's
I
higher in
guarantee you
National
that.
Grid because their rates are higher than NYSEG, so the
Yeah.
rate of return is higher, but about 3, 4, 5%. But it'll always be that, and every time the utility has a rate increase, that rate of return now takes another jump. So
Well, that's
So-
something to consider, isn't it?
yeah, I don't see rates going the other direction. So
No,
you're-
I don't. I really don't
you're
think
pretty
so.
safe with that investment.
Yeah. You think you'll ever make any adjustments to it, or are you happy with the setup the way you have it now?
I'm pretty happy with it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'll let it just make itself earn its keep and leave it at that.
Yeah. Now, what kind of business are you in again?
We're into the metal fabrication.
Metal
Yeah.
fabrication.
Yeah.
And that involves building.
Anything somebody needs out of metal. A lot of industrial work. We specialize in stainless steel for the food and pharmaceutical industry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we do water jet cutting and machine work, sheet metal work, just about anything to do with metal.
Well, we're getting into the construction season. Hopefully,
Yeah.
we'll have a lot of days that are close to 60 degrees like this day and the second day of April is going to be. So I hope business is good for all of you this year.
We hope so too. It's slowed down a little bit, but we're going to hang on, and we're doing some more marketing and going to start traveling a little bit to drum up some new customers.
Well, it's like farmers. You got to get up early in the morning if you want to keep your head above water, take a deep breath, and hope for the best.
It's
But,
definitely a challenge.
yeah, it's all a challenge. But
When it's slow, it's stressful, and then when you're too busy, it's stressful. So there doesn't seem to be a happy medium for us. But
and there's almost no way to escape. Even though I like to think we're in some measure insulated a little bit here in the North Country. We're always just a little bit behind most of the national trends
Yeah.
up here, you know.
yeah.
So let's hope it all works out for you. We're going to head over and take a look at your wonderful backyard project over there.
Okay.
All right. Thomas, I just want to thank you for being a good tour guide today.
Well, I enjoyed
I
it.
didn't burn my hands once. I saw meters going in every direction.
Yeah. Well,
Once again, I just want to mention the name of your company. It's
Yep, I work for
Triangle.
Triangle Electrical Systems, but we shortened her down to Triangle Electric, and we're probably getting close to being right near the top as far as solar installs go in New
Well,
York
with
State.
70 installations,
Yeah, and we got some big ones on the work, so hopefully you'll be hearing more about us.
and there's telephone numbers and websites and
Yep, we're-
easy ways to find out information about
Yep.
solar power.
Yep.
For anybody, let your fingers do the walking.
Yep, we're in the yellow
On that
pages.
computer.
Yep.
At Google's very good. Triangle
Yep,
does, doesn't
yep,
it?
we're good. Yep.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank
Thanks
you.
to Greg for letting you come out for the day.
Yeah, very enjoyable.
It's time for a bonus.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
See you later. John, what the heck is this monstrosity
It is
here?
a monstrosity, but
What is it?
well, that's a solar thermal system for heating hot water. This actually heats, or it assists in heating my domestic hot water. Obviously, it doesn't work too well when the sun's behind a lot of clouds, but it does create heat when the sun is behind normal clouds. This circulates glycol down into my basement into a heat exchanger on a water tank.
Yeah.
And these, there's no water in the tubes. There's only water going through the pipe on the top.
I
There's a
see.
little header that's a glycol mixture, and the heat is generated by sun. This is a vacuum tube, so you could put boiling hot water in this, hold on to it, you won't even feel it.
No kidding.
But it traps the heat in there, and it heats this copper tube up, which brings the heat to this bulb, and then it's transferred through the header. So the water never touches this, but it's transferred in the copper. And you know, I have 90 tubes on this system. There are 30 tube systems. I've set this up kind of custom, built my stand and everything to utilize shade in the summertime.
What a great idea, double duty. Why not?
I'm not big on sitting out in the sun.
Yeah.
And, it seems to be, well, I haven't had it out here for a good summer day, but it seems to be working out pretty good. The deck is shaded. And
When did you build this all?
oh, we've been in the house for 22 years now, but I built this just last year.
Last year.
Last fall I finished it up.
So this is
all
part of
new.
your handiwork, the metal structure,
Yes,
right?
yes, we fabricated the stainless in our shop, and I actually installed it here myself, and then we put the tubes in.
Had you known about this ahead of time? Did you study this whole system beforehand? Or?
I did some research on it. Online, of course. You let your fingers do the walking,
yeah.
but I've been wanting to do something with the hot water system, and it comes with a wall mount. You can mount them on the ground or on the roof, but I did away with those, and I made my own mount for this shade purpose.
You know, this is a fabulous idea.
Yeah.
It does create more shade than I would have guessed.
And you set these at the angle matching your, I think it's the longitude. So these are set at 62 degrees, with the idea that the sun is more direct at the winter time when it's off in that direction, and in the summer I'm not going to be able to use all the heat. It's just going to make way too much heat, and so the sun isn't quite as direct on it. And that's the 3 black boxes. Those are actually dissipators that'll just waste.
Inside the tower here.
Yeah, inside the 3 black boxes. They're like radiators, and they just waste the heat when you're not.
Do they really?
Once your water's up to temperature in the water tank.
I should figure out a way to cook lunch on it, I'll tell you.
That's the biggest problem with solar thermal that I can see is storage. Using it, because I've got I've got almost 200 gallons of water that I keep hot, and after today the water will be at 170 degrees. So
That's amazing.
it starts out at 120 this morning, and
That's way too hot for a shower, baby.
it really amazes me. I mean, the loop that has the glycol in it, there's probably 10 gallons. So that's circulating once the temperature is reached. And this winter there, it was 20 below zero and sunny out, and the water going through that loop was 212 degrees.
Think
And
about
it's just
that.
crazy.
Isn't? Oh,
Yeah.
that's boiling, baby.
Yeah, actually, I had a bad mixture of glycol. Didn't quite have enough, and it froze up on me once. And I saw when I was trying to unblock it, I saw temperatures of 340 degrees at the header. So I got a little nervous. I got a little nervous unplugging that. But.
So what's down cellar that we're going to look at?
The water tank and the system. It's a pretty simple system in the controller.
Let's go do it.
Yeah, let's take a look at that.
Need a cotton picking road map to follow the copper down here. Holy mackerel!
It is quite a maze.
Yeah, you just like to play with pipes, don't you?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
All right, what's this huge tank here?
This is the system, the solar system. This is a 120 gallon tank. You can get 80 gallon or 120 gallon. This is for my domestic hot water. And these 2 pipes here actually go out to the system, so they just loop through the top header of the solar panels out there. And this is the circulator. Well, you don't want to touch that too much right now. And these are circulating the glycol. In this particular model, the coil its copper. There's 140 feet of copper wrapped around
no kidding.
the outside of the tank. I don't really like that system. I'd rather have the copper inside of the tank. But because it's glycol, and you have to separate your domestic water from the glycol. If there's ever a leak, you don't want to be poisoned. I actually have corn glycol in this, so it's supposedly safe to drink. They're working on that certification now. Not that I'm going to go out and drink any.
Not likely today.
But so this is it. I mean, I have an electric heater for backup, because obviously the sun's not going to work all the time. And I mean, I could be using my fuel oil boiler in the summertime, but I'm going to get away from that. I'm making my own electricity. I might as well use it to heat the water when the sun's not out. So, this is set at 120. So this morning I had almost 200 gallons of water. There's a storage tank there too. They're all tied together. And they were probably at 120 degrees, 125 maybe. Because it's been cloudy out for 2 or 3 days. But So right now the glycol's coming back. It's at 184 degrees. I would say by 2 o'clock you're going to see that up around 210 degrees probably.
No
So-
kidding.
Dangerous.
Yeah, yeah, and at the bottom of the tank, you know, in this area where the coil actually stops right here, so it's the bottom that's getting heated, and that's at 143 now, so that's already up about 20 degrees, and you know, the top of the tank is at 134. When that top of that tank, the water reaches 170, it turns a valve outside, and that's where it starts to go through the dissipators. And it starts
okay, I
wasting
get it. Yeah, there has to be fail-safe mechanisms.
Yes, and the other thing I haven't done but I need to do is put my a mixing valve on my outlet, because I mean, everybody in the family knows don't turn the hot water on alone. It's just because you can get scalded. So you have to have a mixing valve on your outlet, so you're
Yeah.
yeah.
It's truly amazing what you've done, and I'm guessing, knowing you, that this whole thing is a work in progress.
Well,
If
it is.
you wake up tomorrow morning and have another idea, there's going to be 20 more feet of copper tubing out here.
I'm just about at the point to start fabricating a system that'll utilize the water better. It'll switch from I'm gonna do away with this coil and use a plate heat exchanger to heat my water, which will be more efficient. And then when the water's hot, it's going to switch over and dump into the boiler, or else a fan coil to heat the house. So I've got that just about ready to go. So
Do you draw these plans up in your dreams, or how?
no, I have used a CAD system, and
Oh, you do.
Yeah.
I was being facetious, but
but we do
when you
Oh, yeah, that's
when
all
you
the
do
time.
this much fabricating, you're
Yeah.
bound to think about it in your sleep sometimes.
24/7. Yeah,
you can't help
You can't get it out of your head.
Is this kind of work something you always dreamed about doing as a kid, or how'd you get into it?
Well, I started out in the welding business, and I don't get to weld much anymore because I'm on the office end of it and the estimating and the not so fun stuff. So I still dabble in things when I can.
Dabbling is fun sometimes,
yeah.
especially when you can
Yeah.
do it in your own house and your own business and so on.
Exactly.
Well, I hope the next time we talk to you, you'll say, "Boy, this is the best year we ever had."
Well, we hope
Wait
so.
till 2010.
That was last year.
Yeah.
Last year was a good year.
Well, you know what? There's always tomorrow.
Yep.
With any luck at all, the sun will be out tomorrow, Thomas. It reminds me of a song which I'm not going to sing on camera.
Well, it's
I want to
good.
thank both of you for being with us here today. John, we like what you do. We like the kind of person you are. And if you can't see what it says on a shirt, well, too bad. Your eyesight's not good enough.
Well, we're going to have you guys down to our shop soon, so
Well-
we've got a nice project going on. We're going to invite you down to take a look.
We'll be there. Hometown
Okay.
Cable is on the move. I think we put about 200 miles on our cars today. Thank you both.
You're welcome.
Thanks to the people who decided they could use solar power to heat all kinds of stuff. Tom and Greg and everybody in his company, and you too with your family and your group. And make sure you watch our program whenever you can on Plattsburgh.com. We're very proud to be a part of the internet, so people in Oshkosh and Bangladesh, if they got the internet, they can watch us everywhere. Or watch us on Hometown Cable on your various cable systems. And don't forget, if you have an opportunity, support it not only with your cheers, your telephone calls, your suggestions, but make out a little check sometime and send it to Hometown Cable on the Ridge Road in Champlain. And who knows where